Okay, our next step in getting this thing put back together is to get the engine sealed up, painted, and general maintenance on it. Now, I'll show you here in a minute. Flywheel looks pretty good. I'll clean it up a little bit. But I did, when I busted the engine apart from the transaxle and transmission, you can see here there's quite a bit of oil. Now, the throwout bearing, the way that was lubed is you had this thing that was mounted up towards the top. That cable comes down there and hooks to this cable here that went up and went to the throwout bearing, and apparently that was supposed to drip oil in it. Now I'll show you that the throwout bearing a little bit. I've already pulled it off, and this is the housing it goes on. That hose would fit, or went into here. Now, I gotta check. I'm not sure that's supposed to swivel like that. But the big surprise I found is look at the fingers on the pressure plate. They are really grooved. I mean, really grooved. So I'm going to take this apart, see if I can weld those up, grind them back down, try to find it's a MCR. What was on it was an MCR, which is a manufacturer, 209 CT, which is clutch, stands for clutch throwout or thrust bearing or whatever. So I got to try to find one of those. When I took this off, well, interesting thing is the throwout, once I released this, took it apart, the throwout bearing would turn, but if I had to guess, I would assume that when there was pressure actually put on it, it wasn't spinning. So anyway, I need to find one of those. The other thing, if you notice here, these come all the way up. This finger is stuck here. Now, as far as I can tell, the friction plate looks okay. Still has wear left on it, so I think I'll be okay there. And anyway, next thing I'm going to try to do is make something to go across here and under here, and crank that down so I can release these, and hopefully I can release those and then either find replacements or knock them back down. So we'll move on. We'll work on that and get back to you. Alright, I rigged up a press here to press these down, and I've got it moved down a little bit so I can hopefully get on these and loosen these up and take it apart. Well, here we go. They're all taken apart. Got the fingers. Maybe that'll give you a better idea how worn they are. So I got to weld those up. This is okay. The pressure plate itself is okay. Got ourselves all our clutch springs. So into the parts bath this goes, and then I'll probably powder coat that. And these And then I grind these down and powder coat them. This I'll probably leave alone. Maybe I don't want to powder coat that. Probably just throw some paint on it. Probably don't need to, but that's the way we roll here. Okay, I got the clutch plate cleaned up in the media blaster, and no, I didn't blast the surface. That's covered with tape. I will resurface that. Do a homemade resurfacing job. So I've got it cleaned off, degreased. So I'm going to put a couple coats of primer on it, and then a couple coats of black, and I'll start doing that here in just a second. First coat of primer. I've been using this Rust-Oleum primer, fast drying, blah blah blah, twice the protection, seems to work pretty good. I'll let that dry and put another coat on it. And then for the black, we've been using the Rust-Oleum high performance enamel matching. So we'll let her dry, hit it another coat, and then I'll start the black. This little beauty's ready to go back in. It is a Victor counterbalance valve. From what I could not find on this particular valve, I could not find anything on it, no manual, nothing like that. It's my understanding the counterbalance valve makes sure that both left and right are balanced, equal, even. And I read something it's also used to, like when the forks are up or whatever, to keep them in place. So what I did is I took these fittings out here, these fittings out, and then on the end there's these. I took those out. There's a spring in there, and then there's a washer and an O-ring, and then these all had O-rings on it. Since I couldn't find any information on this particular valve, there's a couple set screws here, and I think there was a set screw on each end. I didn't take it apart. I just cleaned it out. You know, it was pretty clean. But what I did is then I media blasted it and painted it, replaced all the O-rings, put Teflon tape on the seals, or on the threads on all these, and then went ahead and painted it. Like I said, since I didn't know, didn't have any information, it doesn't even show this in the Clark manual. I looked up and I couldn't find any information about this particular, Victor's still in business. Couldn't find any information on that, on this particular valve. So that, I'm going to let it cure for another 48 hours, and then that goes down and mounts right there. I went out and got some replacement bolts. This is the original bolt that holds that balancing valve in. Anyway, I went out to get those. Surprisingly, this is not a 2.5 inch, and it's not a 3 inch. It's a 2 3/4, but no one carries 2 3/4. So we're going to try the 3, and hopefully that works. All right, we got her bolted in. They stick out. I know I could cut them off, but they don't stick out lower than the cross member here. So I think we're good. We're going to leave it like that. Now on to a new and exciting phase. We're going to tear the Continental Y91 engine down. Hopefully I don't have to do anything major to it. I'm hoping all I've got to do to it is clean it up and reseal it, but we'll find out. I did find a head gasket, exhaust or manifold gasket for it. And I'll put a link to some of the sources where I found this stuff and explain that in a later episode. But first thing we need to do is drain the oil out of it. Well, got the oil plug out of there. That must be like a 1-inch plug. I had to use a crescent wrench on it. Didn't have a wrench that big. And of course I wasn't paying attention and missed part of the oil pan. Oil looks pretty black, but you know, we won't know anything till we get into it. So I'll let that finish draining. Then I'll flip it over and take the oil pan off. Well, I got it turned over, and of course, like usual, made a hell of a mess. Never gets old. Anyway, first thing I got to do is take this rear engine mount bracket off. Yes, rear, because the engine faces backwards in these. So I'll get that off, and then take the oil pan off. Okay, oil pan's off. Let's see. Well, it's got some holy crap. That's not good. That definitely looks like a ring. Well, I'll get the rest of that out of there and we'll clean this up. It looks like it's going to be more work than I thought it would be. Well, this isn't looking good. That's the screen on the oil pump. Obviously it's all plugged up. Interestingly, so far I haven't turned it over, but the cam doesn't look too bad. But I think my next step is I take that oil pump off, probably take that seal off there and seal off there, and then I roll it over and take the manifold off, and then take the head off and see what we got. Here's where we are on the engine. I did check it. I can't show you right now because I got it turned over. Well, you can't see it anyway. The first cylinder has a little bit of a scratch in it, groove, I don't know. So I don't, and problem is it's already been bored to 60. So I'm hoping that it's going to be okay, and I'll just re-ring it. It doesn't have to be perfect. I've gotten it tore down this far. Next thing I got to do is I got to pull the cam gear off so I can pull the cam out of it. I started to remove the studs. Some of them are stuck, so I'll probably have to heat them up because I have to take it in and get the block and the head milled, decked, or whatever they call it. Here's my parts off of it. Here's the flywheel. The pilot bearing is definitely shot. There's front cover. There's the head. There's the hydraulic pump and the water pump. So I'll go through those and probably replace seals and bearings, whatever I need to do. And what prompted me to really tear it down is Let me see if I can find it. I pulled that and that out of it. At first I thought it was a ring, but I had a mechanic friend of mine come over and take a look at it. We got to looking at it, and there's a thrust bearing on the crank up at the front. There's actually, or not thrust bearing, thrust washer. There's actually one in front and one in back. The one in back will actually turn, the one in front does not. So we're thinking it's that. So I'll go ahead and finish taking that out, take the valves out, because it's definitely going to need valve guides. When I had these at the proper spot, they're okay now, but when they get completely extended, there's quite a bit of wiggle in them. So I'll probably have to have valve guides in. They may have to have the valves ground. And so what I'll do, so I'll go ahead and try to get these out. Then I'll get this off, pull the crank out, remove the camshaft out, remove the valves, flip it over, and remove the pistons in the crank. And then I'll do a little measuring on it and take it into the machine shop and have them tank it, and hopefully, you know, and deck it, and I hope I'm using the right term there, or deck it, and then hopefully I don't have to remove any or replace any bearings, and hopefully I don't have to sleeve it, because the sleeves aren't so bad. They're $33 a piece, but my guess is labor on that's going to be exorbitant. So we'll go forward, and I'll add to this as soon as I get done with that. Okay, I got most of the valves out. I left one to show you how this works, but I borrowed one of the C-clamp style valve spring tools from my friend Jamie. Basically, you clamp it around the bottom of the valve spring, put it down like that, and on these particular units, there is just a pin in there. You can, or see if you can, or hold this. Basically, on this one, it's stuck in there. You use a magnet to pull it out. That's all that is. Now, we'll set the pin aside. I'll release the clamp. And this one's sticking up, so basically, well, basically you would just stick something in here like this and give it a little shove, and it'll pop up and pop down. Then you pull it out, and there it is. The seats don't look all that bad, but I've got that down. So now the next thing I do, I did get the cam gear off, and I'll show you what I had to get for that. Now, I wouldn't normally recommend these for normal gear pulling. However, on this particular one, the gear was back there so far, I could not get behind there. These aren't very heavy duty. Sorry for that. But they were good enough for me to get behind there and pull that gear off. The other gear pullers I have this end right here was too thick to get in behind it. I've still got to pull the crank gear off. I'll probably use one of my heavier gear pullers for that. And then we'll get this off. And then we will remove that crankshaft. So, okay. I got the camshaft retainer plate off. But you can't take the cam out until you get, technically, until you get these all out. So I still have this, even though I've got the valves out, I still have the springs. And here's how I'm removing these. Whether it's right or not, I don't know. But it's working, so basically what I'm doing here is I'm just taking a screwdriver. It's kind of hard to do this when you're holding the camera. But I'm popping it out like that. And I'll take this, set it over here, and I'll take these, needle those, and pull it out like that. Now, years ago, I bought one of these little boxes for camshaft and lifters, and what I'm doing is, since it's for a V8, I'm dropping the springs in here, and then when I get the lifters out, these are the retainers. The retainer, they don't use a clip, the retainer pins. I'll probably just dump those into a plastic bag. But that's how I'm keeping track of my order. And then, if you notice, valve guide comes clear down here. So I can't pull them out like that. So I'm going to have to remove all these, then take the camshaft out and probably drop these out of the bottom. Okay, I've rotated the engine on its side, which I probably should have done before. And I moved all the lifters up. So, theoretically, let's get a glove on here. I should just be able to carefully remove this, hopefully without scratching anything. And there we go. Cam looks pretty good. I don't see anything wrong with the bearings. The lobes are still pretty good. So hopefully we dodged a bullet there. Now I should be able to just pull the lifters out. See what we got here. Those look perfect. So I'll go ahead and finish pulling the rest of those out. Okay, if you remember, I showed you the broken piece I found in the oil pan. And what I'm thinking that is, there's two crankshaft thrust bearings here, or shims, or washers. And you can see this inside one turns freely. When I go to this one, no dice. I'm pretty sure the bottom of this thrust washer down here is probably missing. When I check end play on this, and I know I'm supposed to be checking this with the crank pulley on there, but I'm just doing a quick test, I get about 16, what is that, 16 thousandths. There's only supposed to be between 2 and 6 thousandths. So hopefully, if I replace that thrush bearing, they do make some shim packs on here for these two, I can get that corrected. So I'll go ahead, pull this gear off here, and we'll remove all our rod covers and pull the crank out, and then pull the pistons out from the bottom. Rod bolts, crank bolts. And then we've just got a few other, I should probably take the freeze plugs out, and we'll go ahead and obviously we'll have to take it to the machine shop. I know when I started, I said I didn't want to do a rebuild on it. I'm still not going to do a full rebuild on it or check everything. I'm pretty sure once I get this fixed and I re-ring it, it's going to be okay. I hope it will be, or check it, because it's already 60 hundredths out, or 060, yeah, 60 hundredths or 60 thousandths. What is that? Whatever, I'll look it up. But it's already bored out maximum, so if that doesn't work, I'm going to have to sleeve it, and I don't really want to spend the money, the labor on it. The sleeves aren't that bad, but we'll see. Okay, I'm pulling the crank gear off of it. This is the gear puller I had to go to get the cam bearing off. And the reason for that was it was so close to the cover, I couldn't get my normal, any of my normal gear pullers on there. The ends of them were just too thick to get in behind it. I wouldn't recommend these for most people, or for most applications, because they're just so thin. You can see they're already starting to bend on me. However, I'm going to go ahead and use this. It's going to pull it off. I got it at O'Reilly's. It was only 12 bucks with tax. It did the job, but normally most people would want to have a heavier set of gear pullers. Well, I got the cam gear off, and I'm not seeing anything wrong with that thrust washer. Nothing missing. Now there are definitely some shims in here. They all look fully intact, so I guess I will remove those, bag and tag them. And I still have a mystery of where that metal came from. Just to follow up, the reason that front thrust washer wasn't spinning is it's key, or well, it's pinned. You can see on the, so that's why it wasn't spinning. So that's the way it's supposed to be. So I'll go ahead and start removing bearings here. Okay, on these, the main bearings are wired in, and the rod bearings have cotter keys in them. So I'll just clip those and remove those, and we'll start taking it loose. Okay, I got the first bearing cap off. I don't know why it's not focusing, must be dirty. But anyway, the bearings don't look too bad, the rod bearings. So we'll go ahead and finish taking those off, get the crank bearings off, caps. Okay, we're about done with this episode. We got the block stripped down all the way. Got my bagged and tagged parts there. Got my pistons there. Over here, I got all my parts waiting to be cleaned up and freshened up. Valves, clutch plate, or flywheel. That front, I can't remember what it's called. There's a hydraulic pump. There's the head, crank. I'll check those for tolerances. And I'm hoping, I know I said originally that I was just going to reseal it, but getting into it, it looks to me like we're going to have to do at least a re-ring job, which means also cam bearings. And we're going to get some shims and work on the play on the crankshaft end play. I didn't show you, but on the flywheel, the pilot bearing needs to be replaced. So that's going to be it for this time. Hopefully next time when we get back here into this, I'll have it back from the machine shop and be all cleaned up, and I'll have the parts and we can start reassembling it. We also have to finish up reassembling the clutch, and I'll put that in the next episode. So until then, or until next time, this is Rusty Bucket. Please like and share and follow and click on the bell up there so you get notified when we put up a new episode. See you later.